Easy now. Papa got things making him
come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't finna change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip. Yeah, you
Welcome to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast, powered by Blue Wire. Shout out to the new company. My name is Michael Sean Dugar. You guys know where to follow me on whatever Elon Musk is calling that app these days. My @ name has not changed, at Mike Dugar, MikeEdugar. Shout out to everyone who is either watching or listening via YouTube. That probably means you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we appreciate you. Seahawks Man to Man is the name of the channel for those who have not. While I am talking, go ahead, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. We cannot thank you enough for the love and support on there, whether it is our post-game show or our standout plays of the week segment that we try to bring you. Thank you so much for that love. Chris, go ahead and talk to him.
Happy New Year, y'all. It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. You can follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206, and that is CKid206.
All right. As Chris alluded to, is the first show of 2024. Happy New Year. Hope you're enjoying it. We are so thankful that you are taking your time to start 2024 with us talking about the Seahawks losing a game to the Steelers in Week 17. Pretty much a must-win game. I mean, they're not eliminated from the playoffs. We can get into that. But at the time of this recording, the Packers game is already over, so we kind of know that the simplest version of the playoff path is win and have the Bears beat the Packers at Lambeau in Week 18, which, if that sounds familiar to you guys, that's because basically the same time last year, it wasn't off of a loss, they had beat the Jets, but at the same time last year, the Seahawks were in the scenario: win and get some help from someone that ain't the Packers, or have someone go there and beat the Packers. It's like pretty much the exact same thing. There's some other scenarios at play. Like I think there's like 6 teams fighting for that last wild card spot, but trying to get in all those scenarios would just hurt our brains. We can focus on the simple right here, Chris. They need to win and they need some help, particularly from going to Lambeau. And I want to start this show with this. We'll get into particulars of the game, of course. We always do that. But Chris, it feels really, we got to think of a good vocab word here. The one that's coming to mind right now is disheartening, I would say. Deflating. There's some words that are coming up. I don't want to say disappointing. That's too emotional. But I feel like you guys understand what I'm trying to get at. Because as we start 2024, the Seahawks are at the exact same spot they were in to start 2023. It's a new year with the same problem. Same problem like in the micro and like the third down stuff, run defense, missed assignments that lead to explosives on defense, third down stuff, like not committing to the run game or not being good at it. Like in the micro, the same stuff. In the macro, you're looking at a team and a franchise that is just, it looks like stuck in neutral. Right now, like their best bet is to be 9-8 and have some help and sneak into the playoffs at the last second and go to whoever the 2 seed is. I think at this point, that's probably going to be, I think that can be a few teams. I think it could still be Philly, maybe Dallas, Detroit, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But the point is that we're just right back here at the same spot. And Chris, the reason I was looking for those vocab words is because the Seahawks supposedly, allegedly, did a bunch of things to explicitly not be back in this same spot. Obviously, they were never trying to go backwards, but they did things, big things, to not be in this spot right here, right back. Because this is the worst. I mean, getting worse would have been obviously worse, duh. But like, I feel like being in the exact same spot is even more deflating, I think. Like even Gino said today, he was like, I never would have imagined that we'd be right back here in this same spot, but here we are. And that is the reality of it. And that's Chris, that's with changing the whole defensive line, essentially. I know they lost Chenna, but essentially that's changing the whole defensive line. That's effectively replacing Cody Barton with Bobby Wagner. That is changing your secondary, or at least adding a top 5 pick to your secondary, adding a veteran Julian Love to your secondary. That's adding more weapons on offense in Zach Charbonnet, and I'm missing somebody huge. Oh, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Duh. That's adding more weapons. That's tweaking your scheme on defense, which they did. That's another year of growth with all your key players. More time with Shane and Gino in the offense. Gino's second year in the offense. Everybody's second year with Gino, at least at the full-time guy. You had all these things that were supposedly supposed to get you past this point. And the season's not over, of course. But Chris, I don't think anyone can watch the Seahawks and in good faith feel like this team is going to be in better position than they were last year to win a championship, because they came into this game controlling their situation. It feels weird to say control your destiny or control your fate, because destiny and fate are predetermined. So that means you don't really control those things. That's just kind of a sports term that we use. But they controlled their situation. They did. When you beat the Steelers, you beat the Cardinals, you're in. That's it. Simplest stuff. It's all I wrote all week. That's because it's the truth. And Chris, they came in here and played like they had already clinched. If I'd have watched this game not knowing any better, I would have thought the Steelers had a division on the line. I would have thought that. The way they was running and hitting and throwing and catching, I would have thought that the Steelers were competing for the AFC North. And instead, I don't even know if the Steelers can get in still. They need a ton of things. But the Seahawks only needed one thing on Sunday. Win. Just win. And they couldn't get that done. And the score was close, obviously, but it just didn't feel that way. It really didn't. And to be in this same spot a year later with all those moves, with all this like supposed improvement that was supposed to happen, and that you can't help but question some of the macro with the franchise, at this point, because it really does feel like if they do beat the Cardinals, which they should, they'll probably be favored, and Green Bay somehow lays an egg against the Bears next week, and they get in, sure, that'll be great. That'll be fine. Then Chris will probably be doing a pod from, where are we going to be doing the next pod from? Detroit or something?
Probably.
Dallas. Maybe, we do the next pod from Dallas, 2 weeks from now, talking about the same stuff. I just feel I feel like this mediocrity that they're kind of stuck in, I feel like that's one of the worst places to be, because when you're mediocre, you usually don't have a ton of draft picks. You don't have a ton of cap space. You usually have a bad contract or two here or there that you're struggling to get rid of. Like, it's just all these bad things. And this loss kind of makes me focus on those macro things even more than the micro. We get to the micro of not being able to tackle and all this other stuff. But man, Chris, to be right here again for these guys, that's deflating is the word I've decided on, by the way. I was thinking all the vocab words. It's like the definition of deflating, to need more help from a team at Lambeau in week 18 after all that stuff they did this offseason, and even in the middle of the season with, picking up Leonard Williams.
Yeah, you mentioned it. The Seahawks not playing with that sense of, damn, our season is on the line. And you mentioned the Steelers, who had a bunch of things that they need to go right for them. They came in with that attitude, we got to win no matter what. It doesn't matter what else is going on in the league. We have to win on Sunday versus the Seahawks, period. And that's how they played. When you watch them run the football, they controlled the entire facet of the Seahawks defense with their running game, with their physicality, with their running backs, TJ Warren and Najee Harris, being physical and not just getting hit by one person and going backwards, getting hit and still driving and moving forward, picking up extra yards. The old linemen were energized and they were pushing the pile over and over and over again. Hell, there's a drive where I think Najee's maybe stopped at the 4 and the O-line just pushes him into the end zone. That is the type of fight and effort that the Steelers had on Sunday against the Seahawks. The Seahawks, it looked as if they didn't even want to play football. That's what it looked like. Now, I know deep down they wanted to be out there. They wanted to compete, of course. But when the tape doesn't lie. When you're watching the game, they just didn't have what the Steelers had. They weren't matching it. The score could say otherwise. Chris, they were right there, but even the energy just didn't feel right. I feel the only person that was up and at it and doing what he usually does was Devin Witherspoon. He was barking, doing what he normally does. Everyone else was kind of just in the moment, looks like just playing the game. There wasn't too much emotion, which is not normal for the Seahawks team. Usually these guys are very emotional. They make plays and they're barking and talking, but it just seemed there was a spark missing. It just wasn't, it didn't feel like this team was prepared to go out there and leave it all on the line. Whether you can blame coaching, the players just not doing their job, it just didn't look right. And that's unfortunate because the offense, they played okay. They had a couple of mishaps, obviously, with Geno's fumble, and we can get into that later. But in the totality of things, as it says on the screen for our YouTube viewers, new year, same problem. Some of the same issues have just returned. The run game, guys on defense not being able to slow down the running backs. As you talked to me off wax, you made a very good point. 5 players on that Steelers team touched the football and accounted for 400 yards. Think about it, people. 5 players, not 11, 5. And I'm sure you guys can name all 5 of those guys. Deontay Johnson, Kenny Pickett, TJ Warren, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, who am I missing? Kenny Pickens, and the 5th one was Frymuth, the tight end.
George Pickens.
Whatever these cats' name is, I don't know. The biggest thing is 5 players accounted for 400 yards. It's not as if number 11, who was motioning back and forth, he didn't touch the ball once. He was just dressing. He was like, hey, look at this guy. He's running around. He's not getting it. He didn't sniff the ball. I don't think he had a target. They went to 5 dudes, and they won the football game with those 5 dudes and got over 400 yards. And I know on the scouting report, they circled those guys' numbers. I know they did. These are their top players. Let's go out and give effort. Number 88, whatever number Najee is, whatever number Pickens is, whatever number Deontay is. They circled those numbers, and they made sure, watching tape, going on the practice field, that they knew where those guys were. And for whatever reason, it didn't matter on Sunday. It just did not matter. Deontay finds himself butt naked, catches the pass on a deep overcross route and is wide open and runs down the field. Thank God Julian Love hustled, because that would have been a touchdown. But it was just a bad performance. After last week, when they needed to win, not necessarily because it was a Titans AFC game, but you want to win. You don't want to beat the Eagles and then lose to the Titans. You don't want to do that. But they had a chance to get a 3-game win streak going here, possibly a 4th, which is good for the team. You're going to the playoffs a little hot, and that's what you want. You want to be able to be, hey, we're on a 4-game win streak, and now we're in the postseason. Anything's possible. Mike and I have talked about it. There's still other issues that might pop up, and that's why they lost in the first round, but they didn't even get an opportunity to do that. Now they have to get help, as they did last season with the Detroit Lions, who were able to beat the Packers in I don't know if it was a meaningless game, but the Packers were already in the postseason.
It was meaningless for the Lions, but the Packers would have gotten in.
Got it. That's what it was.
Packers were winning, and the Lions had nothing to play for, but won anyway.
That's what it was. Bingo. So I don't know if they're gonna have the same luck this year, because I'm just saying, I don't think the Packers are going to go lose at Lambeau on their home turf, on their home field against the Bears. Granted, the Bears played well on Sunday. Saw the highlights. Justin Fields looked like Mike Vick. So if he does it again, who knows what could happen? But that's a lot to ask for when all you had to do was just beat the Steelers. And then if you beat the Cardinals, as Mike said earlier, you are in. They didn't do that.
Yeah, I think that not playing with the urgency and that back against the wall attitude is really, because you can control that. Sometimes the ball, like Gino made a point, he's like, sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. Sometimes stuff like that does happen, but it does feel like the Steelers were just straining a little harder. That touchdown you mentioned, the Steelers seemed a little bit more locked in. You didn't see, you saw some, DK got wide open, like I think twice. Like you did see some breakdowns in their coverage, the same way you saw breakdowns in the Steelers coverage, or in the Seahawks coverage. So it wasn't like the Steelers went out here and played a perfect game, but it does seem like, I don't watch a ton of Steelers games. My editor also edits the Steelers. So like we talk about the Steelers quite a bit, and the Commanders as well. So I'm like in tune with those 2 teams randomly. But so I say that to say the Steelers certainly played better than they have most of the season. Like Mason Rudolph is their third string quarterback. I mean, he's basically their third string guy. And he played like QB1. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are very good. Like they're fine running backs, not like all pro guys. Like they're good. They're good running backs. They look Najee looked like Marshawn, and Jalen Warren looked like Barry Sanders. Like it was crazy. Like they played, it feels like above their normal level. You know what I'm saying? Like this is for people on YouTube. You can see this clip right here in the second quarter. Like this is Jalen Warren wanting to not go down. And this is everybody else on the Seahawks not being able to get him down. What we're showing is a 1st and 10 run. You guys probably remember it. I don't know if they showed the slow-mo. They probably did. But like 5 different Seahawks got their hands on Jalen. And it isn't until Draymond Jones tackles him like 20-something yards down the line of scrimmage that he finally gets down. I'm pretty sure Spoon got his hands on him. Bobby got his hands on him. Quandre got his hands on him. Julian Love got his hands on him. Mike Jack gets his hands on him. And then Draymond just slings him down. You can't have that issue. The last issue you should have, I think, with like in a game like this is the fundamentals and the simple stuff. Like if like George Pickens play over Mike Jack, for instance, like the blitz, and then he throws that long ball, guys are gonna make their plays. That's kind of is what it is. Everybody makes their plays, but this stuff just feels like fundamentals and effort and kind of want. I felt the same way watching which touchdown did Najee have? He had like a 9-yard touchdown run. I think it was in the second quarter. We got that clip. I think we got the clip of that too. Like you guys remember, it's not the one where the whole team pushes him in. You can kind of be caught in the numbers game. It was 2nd and goal. The Seahawks are actually winning the game ahead of or during like a 2-minute warning situation in the first half. Najee runs it from 2nd and goal from the 9, and he gets a 9-yard run just straight ahead. Chris, it's a 9-yard touchdown run with all 9 yards coming after contact. That's crazy. You should not have that, man. I think it was Bobby that gets a hand on him initially, then Draymond, and then Devin's in there, but I think he gets blocked late. Miles Adams, I think, as we're showing, I think he just gets washed out of the play. Like, there's nothing even fancy about this. They just put their heavies guys in, and they just run right up the gut, man. It felt like Najee had that same 1-2 that we've seen Marshawn have in the past. Like, bro, I'm not going down. You guys can do whatever you want to do. It's crazy because I was rewatching the Beastquake game Saturday night for something else I'm working on. And it was crazy. This looks exactly like that type of energy. Marshawn just decided I'm not going down. That's it. I've decided. And Najee Harris was just beast mode like, and that shouldn't happen on your field when the other team is shorthanded. Christian, did they talk about how many people the Steelers were missing on defense? They talk about that on the broadcast?
They mentioned it earlier on in the game, but I was so locked in that I kind of it was just noise in the background, but they did mention it. I know for a fact they did talk about Minka being out and some of the other key guys are missing time.
They were missing like 4 safeties and 3 linebackers.
They put Patrick Peterson at safety, Mike. That's how you know it got bad.
No, one dude got hurt in the back end. I don't know who it was because he must have come back in because they didn't make an announcement. I was pretty sure they were going to grab a fan with like go in there and be like, hey, anyone sitting in row whatever, seat whatever, if you have a terrible towel, come in here and play DB. Like that's how thin the Steelers were at some point, and they gave up some explosives to the Seahawks. It wasn't like the Seahawks didn't move the ball, like you said. They had a decent day moving the ball. Let me see, what was Geno's numbers today? 23 of 33, 290 and a touchdown, sacked once. The one he fumbled on. Like not even a terrible day, but. He scrambled once for 25 yards, ended up running for 3 for 33. Like the numbers aren't even that bad, but you just didn't feel the 1-2, man. You didn't feel it. Didn't feel it from their side. And it really showed up on 3rd down. They were bad on 3rd down again. Like today is like, it's not a super behind the scenes thing, but like today was so much. I was so stuck on what even to write today. I ain't even really asked nobody no questions. All my audio files from the locker room are like 60 seconds. I had like 1 question, 2 questions, because it's like the same stuff. Oh, what happened on this explosive? 3rd down. You frustrated? Oh, 3rd down. This play. It's like it's all the same stuff. Even Gino was like, yeah, we're talking about red zone, 3rd down. We've been talking about that all year. I was like, yo, yeah, we have been talking about that all year. What's up? How is this still a thing? And I forget what his answer was. It wasn't like super revealing. He gave a good answer. It just wasn't worth repeating or writing down. But yeah, man, it was just like to have that happen where it looks like your back wasn't against the wall at home in your home finale. You're not
Yeah.
coming back to Lumen. It's a wrap. You got the crowd rocking. It was good. It wasn't like the Philly game, but they was rocking. After you get the Philly win, you get the Titans win, you're riding. And then this felt like a random week 6 game. You know what I'm saying? Like it didn't feel like this is
Finale.
everything. Yeah, this didn't feel like it had that urgency to at least from one side. And yeah, that's really rough, man.
And it's scary because go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you got it. Go ahead. I'm
I
gonna eat
think
this last chicken
scary.
nugget I got while you talk.
I think it's scary because the Cardinals played their game against the Eagles on the road as if they aren't coming back to Arizona, but they are. And although their record stinks and they're not going to make the playoffs, they have something to play for. It's called pride. They want to win too. They don't want to lose on their home field. The Seahawks didn't have that urgency on Sunday. They didn't have that, we not losing to this AFC team that we won't see for another 8 years. We're not doing that. That's not going to happen. They didn't have that mindset going, and if they did, they didn't show it. And you saw it on the defensive line where the offensive line for the Steelers did whatever they wanted. They pushed guys, moved guys. I don't know when the last time Najee ran for 100 yards, but fantasy purposes, I know he's been struggling. So maybe he's been balling out this year. Like I said, I haven't watched Steelers. Hell, I couldn't even get the dudes' names right. Mike had to, Chris, that's Jalen. So in this scenario, the Seahawks just, as Mike said, this was like a week 6. We got the week. It's only, as they say after the game, it's only week 6. There's plenty of time for us to improve. We will get better.
I got a stat for you if you want.
Oh, go ahead.
That was Najee Harris's first 100-yard game of the year.
I guess I'm on to something, guys. I'm not just pulling stuff out my butt. I'm on to something.
He had 99 yards against the Bengals in week 12. But
did they win that game?
They won 16-10. I think that's the first game after Burrow got hurt.
Well, check that out. Look at that.
Game. So
he's had 2 100-yard games. We'll round up. Okay. He's had 2 100-yard games this season. That's all that needs to be said. That's how bad it was Sunday. I have nothing more to say. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think our questions will get into some of the other stuff people want to get into. But yeah, I just feel like that's all I could think about. Again, walking back from the locker room, I was like, man, walking back from the locker room today, it was just like, it really felt like the messaging from Pete was hitting. And it felt like everything that had been hitting was just gone. And that really just speaks to more inconsistency from this team, micro and macro, short-term and long-term, more inconsistency, which is how you get to be 8-8. Some days you have it, some days you don't. And that's exactly how you get to be a mediocre average 8-8, 500, like right on the nose team, is because of that inconsistency. Whether that inconsistency from the people delivering the message or inconsistency from the people receiving the message, whatever, or combination of both. Either way, it showed up in a game that they had to have. And yeah, that's whether they sneak in or not. We can get into that with these questions. Whether they sneak into the playoffs or not, it does feel like there's other things wrong that are going to eventually show up. Because when you're that inconsistent, when you're teetering around anywhere from 7 to 9 wins, each year, like that's not. When are you going to make the jump? How are you going to make the jump without making a big change of some sort? We'll get into that though. Let's hit the questions.
All right, let's get right to it. We'll stick with the defense and everything that went wrong on Sunday against the Steelers, but this one's from Ryan Turner. He got to ask this question because he was just befuddled. And he actually grabbed the clip from the game. So we just rapped about it, but it was the play where Najee Harris is hit at the 5, keeps churning his feet, and the Steelers shove him into the end zone for a touchdown. And he zeroes in on our boy Reek. And Reek is just chilling. He's like, oh, they're fighting? Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to just chill outside. They got it. So he wants to know, is this an indictment of what has slowly eroded this team that doesn't play for each other and their pride? What's going on here with Reek?
Yeah, I do think it's I don't know what's going on.
Or is this an indictment of the whole entire defense? That's part
of
it.
Yeah. I haven't talked to Reek enough this season to know like what's going on with him in that regard. I mean, he's never really been like a super big like tackle guy anyway. But I just think in general, I feel like honestly, what a bigger indictment was the play we showed. To be honest, the play where Jalen Warren makes like 5 dudes miss, because it's just a simple joint, or even the Najee Harris touchdown. I feel like the reason why I clipped those plays to show you guys is that I'm talking about the Najee Harris 9-yarder, not the 4-yarder. I feel like once you get, it is tough sometimes when you get like the whole offense pushing forward, on the goal line. Like that play can get a little tricky. I personally don't care whether Reek got in there on it or not. I don't think Reek was the difference between the pile falling the other way or not, really. I think it's bad optics. You should show that effort. The effort does matter, especially since, we know that the team has been upset with his tackling. That's just bad optics. But like, I'm not really stressing over that part. That was just bad effort. But I do think in general, those other plays I showed really were just like better effort would have made the difference, I think. Where it's like, yo, you get in here, you wrap up, you get this guy on the ground. Like Jalen Warren's touchdown, I didn't clip that one, but Jalen Warren's touchdown, well, nobody even touches him really. Like come on, that's crazy. I mean, you have that sometimes happen, guys miss stuff, but it wasn't like one of them Ken Walker where a guy gets juked or something like that. It was just really just nice, a simple run. It felt like that 86-yarder that Josh Jacobs ran for the win last year, where it's just, I think that play is just like ISO lead. Nobody touches a guy, in overtime. It's just crazy. I don't know. I don't want to go as far as say like guys aren't playing for each other or whatever. I don't know about the psychological aspect of it. I'd have to really survey the locker room a little bit better. I don't have chances to do that other than this week, I guess. But I'll try. My more general thought is that it's just overall inconsistency. They lack consistency, not just in play, but just I think messaging, and it's either from the messengers or the people receiving the messaging. I think it's a combination of both, but it doesn't feel like any of it is consistent enough, because it feels like an identityless team way too often, and it feels like a lot of the issues that are supposed to get fixed don't, like just a ton of stuff, particularly on defense. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think necessarily that play is like the one that's like emblematic of the season. I really feel like the ones that we showed were a little bit more of like, yo, this is what's wrong. You got 5 dudes, can't get Jalen Warren on the ground as if he's Adrian Peterson. Like you got Najee Harris just running right up the gut with the heavy personnel. And that was the other thing, Chris. The Steelers didn't do, it's one thing when the Niners get all this motion going or the Rams get you flowing the wrong way with misdirection stuff. The Steelers was in there just like, hey, we're about to go under center with our heavies and run it at you. They had some tosses in there and some stuff like that, but it really was largely, we're going to go between the tackles, we're going to be physical, and we're going to beat you. And that's a crazy, humbling thing to see from a team at home in a game they had to win.
This next one comes from at Maher's Bar. What do you put down as the reason for the rushing defense going from one of the top in the league to the bottom? Scheme becoming too easy to figure out, personnel not performing. What's going on?
So the thing about run defense, you don't get a lot of like schemey stuff. Like some team, I don't want to say the scheme doesn't matter. That would be dumb for me to say. But all right, let's say they went into the Ravens game with one of the better run defenses. What was that, week 9? So let me see. From week 8 until from week 1 to week 8, right? The Seahawks were 3rd in yards allowed per carry. That's pretty good. Let me see where they were when I filter out like QB runs. All right, cool. So on design runs, the Seahawks had the 2nd best run defense in the league from weeks 1 through 8. So that's pretty much like before the Ravens game. And by yards per game, the Seahawks were like a top 6-ish run defense. All right, cool. So Chris, let's go from week 9 to week 17. Before I load this page, where do you think they are in rushing yards allowed per game on design runs from weeks 9 through 17? Where do you think?
I would say 30th.
They are 32nd.
Oh, I was generous.
That is bad, dead last. And so to this question asker's point, yeah, they've gone from at one like mid. That's basically midway to midway, essentially. And for the year, they're 28th. Oh, wow, that's pretty bad. So yeah, why did that happen? I don't think that they, in general, I really don't think they had enough this year. And it's not over. The year's not over. I don't want to speak like that. But generally, it's not enough of that. Chris, you know when Deion Sanders got in trouble for saying what he said about recruiting, that he wanted
Yeah.
a bunch of like single parent dudes on the D line and a bunch of like two parent kids basically on the O line. It was really coded, and he took some blowback for that. But there was something to it because there's an energy that you want to have specifically with your defensive players, like defensive players in the NFL or in college, or excuse me, defensive players in football are kind of like it's kind of like the dark side where the hyenas was in the Lion King. You know what I'm saying? A little area where you're not supposed to go. They just kind of that dark side, rough, tumble, like that's how you want them guys to behave. That's why you see like big trash talkers on like defense, and they usually got the energy and like you know what I'm saying. They barking at folks. They got the personalities. It happens on defense. Your D
I thought,
linemen be nasty dudes. You know what
I
I
thought
mean?
you was gonna go with that Pocahontas reference. White men are dangerous.
No. I wasn't gonna do that. That's how we get in trouble. No. Mike's not saying that, but I just feel like there's an attitude that goes with playing defense, and there's a nastiness to it, and there is an offense too. But you know, it's football in a passing league where you can't test the quarterback, right? For
Mm.
usually the nastiness comes on defense, and you can feel it with the good defense. You can feel it with the Legion of Boom. There was just a nastiness about them. You know, whether it was like the in your face nasty, like a Sherm who would let you know, or like a really intense, like an Earl, or really just violent nasty like a Cam or whatever. Everyone on that team hit, but you guys get the point. They just missing that from like I think an attitude standpoint, um, because as from what I've learned from talking to guys who play defense over the years, like my 7th year covering the NFL, and I've covered the college level, I mean even the high school level years before that. When you want to getting a guy on the ground is some real want to stuff. It really is like, yo, it's there's some obviously some leverage stuff, some angles and stuff like that that matter too. But largely, it comes down to I'm about to get this dude on the ground through hell or high water. And it just doesn't feel like that's the case. And some of it is in the passing game too. I want to just specifically make this about the run defense because there was missing tackles there too. You know, the I don't know how to pronounce the Steelers tight end last name, Fryer or something. You know,
Firemouth.
that's how you say it, Fryermuth.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Let's roll with that. My man Trey Brown has him right there. I think right at the sticks. A little bit of a size mismatch, but still. Um, you got Spoon missed a tackle on, I think it was Deontay Johnson on the first third down of the game. George Pickens stiff arm Mike Jack on the slant on the final drive of the game. Like we're right back at it again, you know. So yeah, I feel like collectively there's not enough that thing that prime time was talking about with like, yo, I need these dudes who ain't trying to go back. You know what I'm saying? Who trying to get it, who feel like they're fighting and scratching for everything. You know who I feel like plays like that? I mean, I feel like we can agree Spoon plays like that, but
Yeah.
a lesser, I don't want to call him a lesser example, but a good example is someone like Michael Jackson. I think usually plays like that. I know he had a couple missed tackles today, but generally speaking, Mike's a pretty physical dude. Like because Mike's the type of late round draft pick. Late round draft pick's been cut several times, been on practice squads. Once you've been on the practice squad and you get called up, you fight a little harder, you know, because you ain't trying to go back to that. You know, it's like check type of lifestyle practice squad do. They need a little bit more of that consistently, and it just doesn't feel that. It feels like they play like that one week and then it's complacency. Particularly, I'm talking specifically about defense, and you just can't have that because a team that's desperate or a team that wants to play bully ball will take advantage of that, like we've seen teams do in this like back half of the season when they've had the worst run defense in the league.
Francisco wants to know, was Uchenna Nwosu the answer all along regarding the run defense?
Not the answer. Run defense, as we've seen, is not just about one guy. Like you need multiple good, committed, nasty, I'm gonna get this guy on the ground type attitude players. What we are seeing though, there was a gap between Chenna and the other guys at the position. I don't think that's breaking news, but now it's just easier to see now that Chenna not on the, hasn't been on the field in quite some time. Because really, Chris, outside of Boye, feels like they're just not getting much from the edge group. It really just and it's been that way for
Since he got hurt, because
yeah.
Nuosa was in there and he was making plays. And since then, as you mentioned, Derek Hall gets in there, it doesn't work out. Daryl Taylor doesn't work out. Who am I missing?
They basically moved Draymond to end. Who Draymond has done some stuff from the inside and the outside, but it feels like they got him in a bad spot. Like he can play both. Like he can be like five technique kind of Michael Bennett hybrid guy, but he definitely feels like he's not playing out of position, but he's like whatever the next tier below that is. Um, who are we missing? Oh yeah, signed Frank. That didn't really work out. He's already off the team. It's just there was a gap. There was a reason why Chenna got the bag. This is the reason why Chenna's salary was so much higher than everybody else's in the room, in the edge room. Because he was consistent. He had that consistency. He wasn't always making like sacks, but he was a pretty consistently good run stopper. He was physical at the point of attack. He could pressure the quarterback at a pretty decent rate, even if he wasn't always getting home. So yeah, man, I don't think that like, oh, they lost Chenna, they were doomed. That's not really how run defense in particular works. But I do think we are seeing in terms of talent, Chenna was worth that bag. I think he makes like $15 million a year now. There's a reason for that. He's a very good player. They've had issues the whole back half of the season trying to replicate that physicality and consistency that he brings on the edge.
This next one is from P_Joel. Who on this defense sticks around for a new regime and who gets cut either because of salary or lack of quality play?
Yeah, I don't think that a lot of people are at risk of getting cut. Here, let me pull up these over the cap numbers real quick. Over the cap Seahawks. I think in terms of like people who would get cut, I think the real like only like person who should maybe be worried is Jamal. Just because I don't even think that's a talent thing. It's just the availability is not there. I feel like they can't consistently, and they could, but maybe because they don't save a bunch of money by getting rid of them. But I feel like it will be hard as a front office, I think, or even a coaching staff to be like, all right, cool, he's healthy now. We got him for 17 games in a playoff run. You know what I mean? It just feels like you got to keep signing insurance at that position or drafting insurance because of that. And that's just the reality of the situation. That's just a factual thing. It's not even an opinion on the play. I think when healthy, Jamal's fine. But you just can't count on that, right? It's like CJ Prosise, Rashad Penny, DS Rich, guys they've had before. You guys know all the people who just like, yeah, he's fine, but can't keep him on the field, can't make the tub, can't make the club in the tub. To steal a phrase from Clint Hurt there. All right, let me pull up these over the cap numbers and look at some guys on defense and their cap hits. Yeah, I'm not really seeing a ton of guys on defense here like, oh, let's trim that fat. I mean, you could get rid of Draymond Jones if you want. You're not going to get rid of Spoon. You could get rid of Julian Love, I guess. You save like $5 million there, something like that. Oh, yeah, I guess Brian Monet, you could part ways there, although they could use a big boy like him in the middle to fix that run defense. Maybe you ask him for a restructure. That, I think, and I bring this up to say that this is also part of why Chris is so deflating, or whatever word I decided on earlier, because it's not like a ton of wiggle room here financially either. And they're not going to have a bunch of high draft picks, and they got to use some of those on offense too. And no, this is a team that doesn't like to spend in free agency either, So they're in trouble here. In terms of guys who are going to make it, I think if I had to look at all the starters today, let's do this. Let's do this exercise together, Chris. I'm gonna say a guy, and you just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if you think he'll be in the rotation. Doesn't have to be a starter. He will be in the rotation on defense in 2024. Are you ready, sir?
Let's do it. Are we starting with defense, Leonard Williams, or are we starting
we're just gonna only do defense.
Okay. No, where are you starting though?
I'm gonna start secondary and work our way forward.
All right.
How about that? Jamal Adams.
No.
Andre Davis.
That's a tough one, but I think the Seahawks should bring him back. Thumbs up.
I don't like the thumb thing. It sounds aggressive. You can just say yay. You can say yay or nay.
There we go.
Or yes or no. Is it however you want to do that? So we're 50-50. Kobe Bryant.
Damn, that's tough. I say yes because the upside.
For what it's worth, he's also not that expensive either.
Oh yeah, he's
paying
there
Kobe.
We go.
pay Kobe like 980,000 next year or something like that.
Yep.
Julian Love,
Yeah.
Reek Woolen.
Absolutely.
All right. Michael Jackson.
That's a tough one.
I don't think Mike Jack is expensive next year for what it's worth. I think actually he might just be a free agent.
I don't know if he comes back though. Someone might say, "Here, Mike Jack, here's $6 million."
Yeah, he's a restricted free agent, so they could keep him for the low. But you got him as a yay or nay.
Yeah, I'll say yes. That's
All
tough
right.
though. Where do you have
So,
him?
um, I would say nay. I could see Mike just wanting to be somewhere else,
That's what I was thinking, but I'll stick with yes. Go ahead, give me the next guy.
but I don't think they would be like you're not good enough.
No,
I mean,
I get
they
it.
basically played him over Trey Brown today.
It would be the same scenario with Cody Barton. He got paid in with the Commanders, easy money.
Yeah, I could see that. We'll skip Spoon. He's obviously going to be on the team. Trey Brown,
Yes.
Jordan Brooks, who's a free agent after this year.
Ooh, Jordan put us on good tape. I could definitely
did.
see a team giving him the bag if the Seahawks aren't able to, because like you said, they're pretty tied up. They don't have a lot of money that they can spend. So if the Seahawks don't give him a offer that he thinks is worth it, he could be out. So I'm gonna say no on Jordan, unfortunately, which is really bad if that's the case.
Devin Bush.
No.
He's a free agent after this year, by the way. So we got to know there.
On
Bobby
those two,
Wagner.
Mike, on those two, though, before we go to Bobby, Jordan, and Devin, where are you at?
I think I'm a yes on Jordan, and I would say a no on Devin.
Okay.
I think Jordan's going to be one of those guys they try to prioritize.
Well, then they'll figure it out
so.
then.
We'll see. I've thought that before, and I've been wrong. Shaquille Griffin was an example of a time I was wrong.
Oh, we both thought that though.
Yeah. We thought we were both wrong. DJ Reed was another time I thought that as well.
Okay.
Rashad Penny was another one I thought. So like I don't always get those right. Sheldon Richardson was probably the first one I got really wrong. But that's before I was like tapped in. Anyway, it's supposed to be me asking you questions. You flipping it on me.
I just want to get your advice, your thoughts on it. But go ahead.
That's true. I'm sure they want to hear it too. Bobby.
Oh yeah, they got he getting old, but Bobby he looked good so far this season. I can't. Yes.
I love the. I think I've talked about it on the show before. I love the two phrases: getting old or not getting any younger. Just because literally everyone does that. Someone goes from 12 to 13, they're getting older. But I get your point. It's just a phrase. It makes me chuckle a little bit. It also makes me chuckle when people tell you their age and then tell you what they're going on. Oh yeah, 18 going on 19. Well, yeah, no, duh. If you're 18 going on 20, it'd be breaking news. It's weird. Yeah, he's 24 going on 25. Oh, really? Thanks.
Well, actually,
Bobby, he's gonna go from 24 to 45
because of COVID. We're gonna cancel that year. So Bobby.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. COVID year counted for our age. Frank Clark's already off the team. Boye.
Yep.
Draymond Jones.
I mean, they just paid this man.
They did just pay him $50 million.
How crazy would that be if they say, "Yeah, bro, we good"? But I think just because they paid him, yes.
Yeah, I mean that would be very crazy. It's his cap hit next year is 18 million. Dead money is 13 million. Only saved 4 mil by cutting. So yeah, he's probably here.
Yeah.
Miles Adams.
Damn, he's a big body. When he gets in there, he plays, but he put on some good tape. So I'm gonna say yes, though. I think he likes Seattle.
I think he's a free agent too. Let's see. Jaron Reed.
He signed a 2-year deal, right?
He did, but it doesn't guarantee anything.
I'm just
cap number is only 5.9 million next year.
I'm just remembering some of the stuff you told me off wax about other former Seahawks and how they were like and they were out. So I'm wondering if Jay Reed's going to fall into that category. I'll say yes for this.
There have been guys like that. I do not know if Jay Reed's like that, but you got a yes on him.
I got a yes on Jay Reed.
All right, Mario Edwards.
Before we go to Mario, give me your thoughts on Jay.
I would say yes on that one.
Okay, I feel good. Okay, who's the next guy? My bad.
Mario Edwards.
Man, no.
All right, Leonard Williams.
No. What do you think?
I think that on defense, that's the other priority. I would say Jordan and Leonard. I feel like if they're going to spend money or if guys are going to have to be casualties to create room for retention of other players, it would be Bobby. It would be, excuse me, it would be Leonard and JB. That would be my thought.
Okay.
And then D Hall. Well, he's second year guy. He's not going nowhere. Gerald Taylor is the last one.
No, unfortunately, I don't see it.
I think he's a restricted guy, so they can just they can keep him for the low or bring him back. So yeah, it's there's the guys. You know, we put our crystal ball here. We'll probably do that exercise again in probably greater detail, maybe in like a mailbag or something in the offseason. But yeah, not a lot. It's a lot of tough calls. A lot of tough calls on the non-first and second year guys, which is not good. Not good.
Not good at all. All right. This next one comes from Brian Lindy. How shocked were you, Mike, to see Jamal go to IR? Does this spell the end of his time for the Seahawks, or do the Seahawks give him another year?
I think that there's a world where Pete would like to give him another year. I do. Because you can tell from listening to Pete, and I just kind of know Pete in this way, and you guys probably do too. He really empathizes with the players. Like he does. Like he understands. He has so many behind the scenes conversations with these guys, and he has these tough conversations where whether he's telling them they're going on IR, that they can't play, or that they got to hold them out of practice, whatever these hard stuff, or that they got to trade him or whatever. Like or they got to cut him. He knows all that stuff. He sits there, he cries with him, he argues with him, he does all the tough stuff, right? Because he cares about the guys. I think he does, and it's very clear which guys he doesn't care about too. You can feel that as well. Jamal's one of those guys he does care about, and I feel like he would like him to be back. I do feel that. I feel that right now. I do. I don't think that guarantees it though. For real, because he wanted Bobby back too, and he wasn't. And he wanted Russ to stay, and he didn't. And he's wanted other guys to stay. He's wanted linebackers and corners, and they tried to keep Shaquille. They wanted Rashad Penny back. There's tons of guys. You can go through all the type of guys they wanted back, and then just for whatever reason, Pete was overruled or just change of heart or whatever. So I think that Pete would want to give him another shot. Like if it's up to him, like if he makes that final call on it, he's back. But if he leaves that open to the room, he'd be like, all right, guys, even if it's just him and John in there. But if like, all right, guys, what are we thinking? What are we thinking? What do we think? I feel like if it becomes a group think, not back. But if the head man just lays down the law on that, then I think he's back.
This next one comes from Hawks Ninja. Given the Seahawks defense ain't been getting better, do you see Pete hiring a defensive coordinator outside his comfort zone to run the defense and step away from that side of the football?
No. I don't. I don't see a world where Pete. Well, he's hands off to some extent, and he does some correcting here and there, and that gives some input and stuff. But he tries to let his coordinators do their thing, right? Because he's been a coordinator, and so he knows what meddling can do from the head coach, particularly when you try to do it on game day. He really likes to let his guys kick back, do their thing. Like he inserts himself here and there, but for the most part, he doesn't like to meddle. Like it's Clint's defense. I do think that. My guess would be, I don't know how involved Jody is in this, but sometimes what happens is when you see coordinators go, it comes from above where they're like, all right, man, you just got to do something. Like whatever we're doing is just not working. And sometimes as offensive coordinator, like the Steelers don't usually fire people in midseason. I think they fired Matt Canada midseason, their OC. That's pretty rare. I don't know if Tomlin had ever done that. Feels like one of them moves where someone above was like, hey, man, look, man, you got to do something. Our offense stinks. Right. And I feel like we've seen other scenarios like that. The Bills they fired their OC midseason. Can't remember his name. Dorsey, I think, got the boot. We've seen other position coaches get hired or fired because the ownership is like, look, man, I believe in you, but you need to do something because this ain't work. I could see a scenario where that happens because the numbers just aren't there. They're just not. You can't just be this consistently bad at run defense in particular. And just be like, oh, we'll just switch a few players out, tweak the scheme a bit. That's a hard sell. I feel like it's a really, really, really hard sell to make, particularly with the run defense. Because when you're bad at that, it just trickles down and you're just bad at everything. When you're bad at the run defense, like today, they can do whatever they want. Can I read a quote relative to that, actually?
Absolutely.
I want to read one. This is from, I was talking to Quandre. This is on the record convo. Just at his locker. I said, at first he was like, you got to stop the run. Plain and simple. Teams line up in 13 personnel. They tell you what they're going to do, and we ain't get it done. End quote. And I followed up. I was like, man, you knew they were going to run it. So, like, how does that feel kind of knowing that that's what they were going to do and they were just kind of able to do it? He said, quote, when a team can just go and run the rock, it takes all the wind out your sails, and just feel like ain't nothing you could do. They run the ball, run the ball. They got everything in their offense now. A lot of third and shorts, a lot of opportunities for 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. That's what happens when you don't make teams one-dimensional with their third string quarterback. End quote. So the reason I bring that up, because that's like the general thought of defensive minds. It's like, man, if we can't even stop the run, we can't stop anything. Then we're so susceptible to play action. We're not going to get off the field on 3rd down because all the 3rd downs are going to be short and manageable. Mason Rudolph had like 4 sneaks today. He ain't Jalen Hurts, but the thing is, they were so close he could do it. So yeah, I could see a scenario where Pete probably doesn't want to, but maybe there's some pressure from above to be like, yo, we gotta make a change because we're just not. Just the same thing. We didn't got worse in a lot of areas. The Ken Norton run defense was never this bad. So yeah, I could see that scenario in particular where a change is made.
This next one comes from Ziggy Not Nice. Now, we already mentioned the Jamal Adams portion about his future with the Seahawks, so we will spin it to his second part, which is, should Seahawks fans be worried about Leonard Williams not returning next season?
Yeah, I mean, you could get a Sheldon scenario, Sheldon Richardson, that is, where it's just like, I just go somewhere else. I don't know if Leonard likes it here. I don't know him personally. I've talked to him maybe once in the locker room, I think. I've been doing other stuff. So yeah, without knowing him too much, it's pure speculation. Of course, that's a plausible scenario. There's no guarantee that the money lines up, that by the end of the year, Leonard's like, yeah, I want to call this place home. It does seem like from talking to him on the record and when he's done his press conferences, the same stuff you guys have seen on their YouTube channel or whatever. Yeah, it seems like he's vibing. That's cool. But you go 8-9, miss the playoffs or something like that. You might be like, I'm out of here. I'm about to go to such and such who's dropping the bag on me. I don't know what other suitors he may have. Probably a lot because he's a good player. But I think, at least from right here in this chair now, I would imagine that he's a priority for the front office. And when you're made a priority in that way, I could see him coming back. But it's not a sure thing, though. So if you want to worry, go ahead. I feel like as a Seahawks fan, you probably already have stuff to worry about. And I wouldn't add that to the list just for the sake of just a low blood pressure. But yeah, I don't think it's a sure thing. I would like to think so. But I mean, we've seen this scenario play out where it's not. So I can't, Sheldon is the first thing that comes to mind. That felt like a sure thing on locker clean out. Like I was like, oh yeah, he'll be back. Nope. Clowney too, actually. It's another good example. So the fact that we've seen them invest in guys and be willing to let that person walk, yeah, it's probably worth worrying about. Be careful though. Watch that blood pressure. You're already a Seahawks fan. Be careful.
We got Roger Vanu with this one. The issues, the talent deficiencies, I should say, on the defensive line, defensive end, and corners that don't do a good job of tackling. The question is, Mike, do you believe the current coach and general manager can build a championship team from here, or do the Seahawks need to look about getting some new leadership?
Yeah, the leadership thing is tricky because it does feel like even just last week we were talking about how the messaging is hitting and the locker room wasn't lost. I still don't think the locker room is lost, by the way. I feel like it's there, but now the question is that enough? Like that's the next question. They could easily win and get into the playoffs next week, and it'll feel like everything's fine, at least until again I'm doing this from a hotel in Dallas or something like that, or a hotel in Detroit, and we already know how that's probably going to go. Although they could beat Detroit, but the point is, I guess they could beat Dallas too. But the point is, I don't think so. I think the answer to the question is no. And here's in part why. I've always felt like this, and Chris, we've talked about this before. Like, you need blue chip talent to be a contender. Like, you can just be a feisty team with pretty much anybody. That's the Steelers. I mean, they have some blue chip talent, but generally speaking, they just feisty. They 500. They one game over 500 every year because Mike Tomlin just got vibes. He does that. He's got vibes and culture. But I feel like if you want to be a contender, you need blue chip cats. And I mentioned that I was watching the Beastquake game last night or Saturday night. Yeah, that's last night for me anyway. for y'all just a couple nights ago. But either way, I was really watching that, and I was watching a few other Legion of Boom era things, and one of them was their 2012 playoff run. It was the game where they beat Washington in Washington with RG3, and then they lost to the Falcons the next week. And I was watching, I'm like, oh, this is not being recreated here. I felt that, I wasn't gonna like tweet it or nothing, but I feel that pretty strongly that it's just gonna be hard to recreate that. Now it doesn't have to be the same ingredients. You don't need like a bunch of badasses on defense or something like that, and generational Hall of Fame running back or something like that. But what I say is recreate, Chris. When I watched, bro, they had they had guys who were probably like top 5 at their position all over the place, like quarterback, running back, linebacker, corner, safety. I'm probably missing. Oh, Mike B was like, in terms of like a 5 technique, one of the best. Definitely top 5 in his spot. Like it just feel like they had it, and that was a lot of blue chip talent all at once. It feels like how it feels when I watch the Niners or the Ravens or even previous Chiefs teams. When I watch the Bengals team that went to the Super Bowl, that Rams team that won the Super Bowl, like you just see blue chips. I don't know how many blue chip players you think. And when I say blue chip, I would say like let's use a guy that while he's playing under the contract that he's under now will be a top 5 guy at his position.
There's only
guys
what?
You think they have?
So Jordan Brooks, that's one guy. Man, Reek had such a great start, but he's had such a rough season this year. It's tough to say he could be, but I'll throw Reek in there. The upside is still there, so that's 2. Oh, you know what? Boye. I think if Boye takes another step, I'm gonna say 3 guys.
Okay.
Boye is probably a stretch because he can be a really good player, and that's fine. But yeah, I would definitely still say Reek, but I'm seeing a lot from Jordan. He just stay healthy, my friend. It's tough out here when you're hurt, obviously.
Yeah,
It's tough.
I think I'm probably going. I think you could get there with Reek for sure. I think you can get there with Spoon, particularly at nickel.
Forget Spoon. Wow, yeah, Spoon definitely,
particularly at nickel. And I think on offense,
JSN.
I think you're probably only getting there with Abe. I think Abe's got like top 5 right tackle potential. I think Abe's their best lineman. I think I said that before. Like I think he is. He's really good. Abe's really, really good. And that
might be out again.
Yeah, that's tough. I think that's probably it. And I mean, if they were to, and we've seen Quandre play like a top 5 safety. So I mean, some of it's there, but the fact that it's a little iffy. Whereas some of the teams that we're seeing that are contending, it's not iffy. I think that's where the disconnect is. So no, I don't. This regime has had a lot of time in the post Legion of Boom little run to try to work on that, and just have not gotten it done. So yeah, I don't have faith in them doing it unless they get really, really, really lucky with like some day 3 guys popping. I think that's what they would need, and I just don't really see that.
We got a pair from @rosebug_22. What are the odds Pete gets another year? And then this loss, what does it rank an embarrassment level for Pete's tenure?
Off the top of my head on embarrassment, it's in terms of regular season, I feel like we definitely have to separate those from playoffs. That Rams one where they got smacked in 2017 was pretty bad. I mean, the opener this year was pretty bad.
I know that's not the opener.
The opener from this year actually doesn't look as bad since the Rams are like good now. With largely the same players like Puka becoming what he's become makes that week 1 not look as bad because now Puka's done that to everybody. Like Puka should probably be all pro. Like this guy's blue chip player. Puka, for real. Puka has like
you ain't lying.
Top 5 in the league potential like at receiver. And that's hard. Receiver is the deepest position in the league. And Puka's a baller. And that's with playing with Cup. That's crazy.
Right.
Anyway, the Colt McCoy Giants loss was pretty bad. that was up there. That's probably one of the worst there because that team had no. Not that I think Daniel Jones is any good, but I mean, like they didn't have Daniel Jones, and they didn't have Saquon either. I feel like I feel like Wayne Gallman or something was they running.
Yes, and he went off. He had like
He was
121 yards.
yeah, and he went crazy. Yeah, it was like, oh my goodness. That was pretty bad. There was a Cardinals loss in there where they had
Colt McCoy again, right?
yeah. All of the
And he
Colt
did it on
McCoy
a bad.
losses.
He did it on a bad hamstring, which is even crazier because you can't move. So how is he beating you guys?
Yeah, there was and there was another Cardinals loss. I want to say 2017. I think like Brett Hundley played most of that game actually, and I think that one was pretty. So there's been those all come to mind. I don't know if I'm ranking these necessarily as just spitballing them. They lost to the Bears with Nick Foles like 2 years ago. Here actually, that was rough. He threw like the game-winning touchdown to Jimmy Graham in the snow. That was pretty bad. I think that mathematically eliminated them from the playoffs in 2021. So there's been some bad ones. I don't think that the blowouts, some of the good teams, I'm like, oh, that was terrible. Like, yeah, getting smoked by the Ravens is bad. But like the Ravens might go win the Super Bowl and blow everybody out. So who knows? Yeah, those ones were the teams that you shouldn't have no business losing to are the ones that kind of stick out to me. And my time covering them, those are the ones that really jump out. It'd be like, bro, how did you they lost to like Nick Mullins and the 49ers, I think in like 2017 or something like that.
He threw for 400 yards damn near, right?
No, I think the 400-yard one they won. And then like 2 weeks later, they go down there and lose in overtime. I think
okay.
like Richie James had like a kickoff touchdown. The Seabass just whiffed on. Maybe that was 2018. So yeah, like today losing to Mason and those guys, that's pretty bad, man. No Micah Fitzpatrick. TJ Watt didn't kill the game. It's one thing if TJ Watt goes crazy, Oh yeah. So this is up there. It's probably like top 5 with some of those Colt McCoy losses as well.
And then the other part was odds Pete gets another year.
As crazy as I say all that to say, I could easily see Jody justifying this. Like if they get in for one, easily justify if I'm Jody. If they win, they beat the Cardinals, finish above 500 again, and then like the Bears lose, could easily see Jody justifying again. And then if they narrowly lose to the Cardinals, say lose like a game like today where it's like, oh, you lose by 7 or 4 or 3, one possession game, you're on the road, and then it doesn't matter anyway because the Packers would end up winning their game. Just easily see it justified. Like I really think it'd have to be a full-on meltdown in Arizona to lose, or excuse me, for Jody to be like, Pete, you're out of here.
This next one is from Replacement Hawk. Is there anyone out there holding Pete accountable for mistakes, like the decision to waste a timeout by challenging, or his thoughts, decision to onside kick when an out-of-bounds kick would have kept the 2-minute warning in play?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too deep in those decisions because we've already gone pretty long on other stuff. But yeah, both of those were dumb. I don't think it would have mattered anyway because they were going to get a first down. Honestly, I don't know why the Steelers threw the ball in the second half. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I was sitting next to Dave Bowling, retired Tacoma News Tribune columnist. I mean, he was working, so he's not totally retired. I don't know who he's working for now, but I sit next to him at home games, and I was like, Dave, every time they ran the ball, I was like, what are they doing? What are they doing? They're getting like 5 yards a pop. To answer the question, though, about the accountability, there's no one, really. We had Pete on the show. What was that, in June? And one of our last questions was just like, yo, Pete, what's up with you and Tater up there? Y'all got a plan for these challenge flags? And we all kind of laughed. Pete was like, nah.
He was dead.
And it was like, it was joking, but he was serious. Like they just throw the challenge flag off vibes. And we knew that. We're not breaking any news here. Yeah, Pete confirmed it on the show. We've all known that, though. He's confirmed it on radio and everything. I do think this could probably be its own pod. But I remember when I was doing some reporting on like all that Russ stuff a couple of years ago, that was one of the beefs within his camp, was just like, man, there's just no accountability for that dude. He can do all these things, and he's just like, no, there's no one there. There's no one there to be like, tell him the real hard truth except for his kids, And I've always felt that was like a valid. They had that camp has some things going on with them, clearly. But that particular beef, I was like, I kind of hear you on that, like, because that can lead to like Kanye, no one man should have all that power type energy. Which we see, but I think I think if you're hiring Pete and you're paying him like they're paying him, and you're investing in him emotionally and contractually, like Jody Allen and the Seahawks are, uh, you kind of accepted that Monday through Saturday is what you got Pete for. That's what you got him for. That to get the best out of guys, to instill confidence, to deliver the messaging that gets these guys to be at their best, to bring out the best in everyone, to play at their most confident self, to compete, all that good stuff. You do that knowing that on Sunday he might challenge something that's crazy, or that he might he just might burn a timeout for no reason. He might burn 2 timeouts for no reason. He might kick when he should punt, or he might kick when he should go when he should kick. You just accepting that there's going to be some game management. What the hell was he doing? That's just kind of par for the course. Every coach has some of these drawbacks, by the way. Some of them are great with the game management stuff, and then the Monday through Saturday they got issues. You guys know that. Pick a coach, I could tell you something that's wrong with him, but that's the thing with Pete. You're accepting that Monday through Saturday he gonna kick butt, and then on Sunday, it's like, dog, why did you throw that flag? Or like, dog, we need that timeout, right? I was like, bro, he didn't catch that. Or it's like, dog, why are we punting on 4th and 1, right? You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. So no, there's no one to really check that, and that's he can do whatever he wants on those, and that's always gonna be the case.
P. Joel returns. Who is the Seahawks realistically head coaching candidates for next season? Should Pete Carroll step away, retire, get fired, you name it?
I'm cool with the first year head coach. Chris, we could do this with tons of names, but I think there's like 2 that I like. One that I'm like, somebody's got to give him a shot, and then the other one is like, I'm just here for chaos. So you want the chaos one or the more reasonable one first?
Chaos.
The chaos one is Jim Harbaugh. There's my chaos one. That's where I'm like, yeah, man, bring him in. He's been, because then you kind of get the little Pete effect where he's been recruiting all the guys this whole time. He's been coaching against a lot of these guys in college that are going to be coming into the league. Maybe has that little advantage or something like that. He's crazy and wired, a little funky, but he knows ball, and guys play hard for him. And wherever he goes, the identity follows, with the style of play follows, like whether it's the Niners or what's going on in Michigan. That would be chaos. I'd like that. And then my other one that I feel like someone got to give him a shot, man. I feel like I just didn't forget that he was a candidate for he's interviewed with 16 different teams, and that's Eric Bieniemy. I will still give him a shot. Everyone else hiring these great offensive minds and stuff like that. Seahawks, if they're going to do that, go get yours. Just make sure he can hire a good staff, and you let it rock. I don't know if any of those are realistic, but I do think one of them's chaos, and the other one's far more realistic than the other, I would say.
This one comes from Hooch. I'm sure you know who that is.
Oh, yeah.
The homie.
Yeah.
At Reese the Baptist. He's now changed his name yet again.
Yes, he has. Shout out to Reese.
How long can Pete keep his job while being middle of the pack?
It's a good question from the homie. I'm not saying it just because he's the homie. It is a good question. I feel like everyone wants to know an answer to the version of this question. I think you can keep your job for a while, man. And we've seen that, actually. Like, if you win a Super Bowl and stay competitive for a while, you can stick. I mean, Harbaugh has largely done that. When is the last time the Ravens won a playoff game? I don't know. I feel like it's been a little bit. If they've done it recently, my bad. But I don't think they have. If you can you should go to Pro Football Reference for me real quick and see if
they were the number 1 seed against the Titans because Lamar got
hurt. They lost that game.
Yeah, they lost that game. So the last playoff win, I think,
I
might have been 18. I'm guessing. Hang on, I'm pulling it up.
Yeah, I think they beat somebody in 2018. I want to say.
I think
I'm pulling it up. Did they lose to the Chargers? Either way, the point is, why are you pulling that up? The Steelers have basically been in that realm for a long time. The Saints existed in that kind of space for quite some time with Sean Payton. The Ravens have existed in that space of we're not terrible, but we're not really the contender for some time there. The Steelers, Saints, Ravens, Patriots were just winning. But I think those are the teams where you're like, okay, their coach has been there forever or was there forever. And they didn't just win a bunch of championships. They won one or maybe won 2 or whatever, and was just consistently competitive around everything else. Not good enough to be a contender, but not bad enough to get canned. I think it's not that hard to imagine.
My bad. 2020, Mike.
Who they beat in 2020? The
They
Titans.
they beat the Titans in the 2020. They lost in the divisional round to Buffalo.
Forgot about that. I kind of remember that now. I can like picture for some reason Marcus Peters like crip walking on the Titans logo or something like that. It's the vision in my head right now for some reason. So I do remember that actually. So it's not been that long ago. But that said, the Seahawks last won a playoff game just the year before that. In 2019, they won at Philly. So I say that to say if there's pretty much good examples in the league of ownership not minding consistent competitiveness, because where we see mediocrity, maybe an owner can see, or an ownership group can see competitiveness. Like, hey, we're in the fight. We're playing meaningful football in late December, early January every year. That's worth something. I can see that. It's honestly not that crazy, but I can see as a fan base that'd be frustrating. But from ownership perspective, we see that kind of around the league with these guys who bought up some goodwill with a championship and can kind of float around competitive. As long as you're competitive, play meaningful football. We pack it. There were 68,000 people there today for the home finale. When you're getting that every year, where that final home game has still got people selling out and you still got something to play for, yeah, I think you can do that till the end of time. I don't want to say unfortunately, but I think that's kind of the reality of the NFL. You just can't do what Belichick's doing, and you can't bottom out. That is where you get screwed. As long as you don't do that, though, then you can stick around.
We got Matthew Blue, 1875. Change got to happen. So, with that being said, if Pete ain't gone, would you let go of Hurt or Waldron?
That's a good question. I mean, you could really make the argument based on the production in either direction. Where would you go, Chris? Can I put you on the spot real quick?
Absolutely. This is a tough one, and I would say both coordinators are only giving options to the players and what they got, and the players don't execute said plays. For example, you look at Sunday's game against the Steelers. Clint Hurt draws up plays for you guys to tackle guys in the hole. Clint Hurt can't go out there and make you do it. You have to do it. So you've seen that all season, though. Clint Hurt has put Jamal Adams on the spotlight. He's put Jamal in blitz scenarios, and Jamal just misses. Clint Hurt can't do anything about that. And you can make the argument with Shane. He has put guys in position to make plays. Sometimes they don't. JSN drops a shovel pass. Whether or not that works, I mean, is that on Shane for calling that? No, I don't mind the play call. Hell, you tweeted out the indirect snap or the direct snap to Kim Walker. That has worked previously and was a positive play. On Sunday, they fumbled the rock. And then DK, he drops a touchdown. That's not on Shane. Dialed up, great throw. He doesn't come down with it. So the argument for both of these guys is not as much. Now, I'll be fair. We have grilled Shane on some of the play calling, and hell, we talked about it off wax. When we watched the film, there were 3 or 4 instances where everyone's doing out routes. The middle of the field is wide open, and it's third down. It's like, hey, man, you send someone across the middle of the field. I don't know. DK, he's 6'3". If he gets in front of someone, it's a first down, maybe a touchdown. We saw that against the Cowboys. So if I had to, I would probably lean more towards Shane because this is Clint. How many years has Clint done this? This is his second year now? Second full year? Shane, this is his third. So I'm giving...
third, yeah.
Yeah, so we haven't really... I want to give Clint Hurt another year before I say yeah. So that's where I draw the line. It's the fact that Shane has been here for some time and the offense hasn't exploded as it should have with the weapons. They go out and get a JSN. They still have DK. Ty Lockett is still doing his thing, and they're not the greatest offense. They still have third down issues that are been a problem all season. Whereas with Clint Hurt is, okay, Jamal Adams hasn't been healthy. He's not getting to the quarterback, getting the sacks you need. You lose Uchenna Nwosu. And I get it. Well, Chris, what about the offensive line? They've had issues too. Yeah, they have. But you know what? This is his third year, and we haven't seen an explosion. We've seen the the defense looked really good the first half of the season. Not even the first half. I would say the first 5-6 weeks. They looked really good on the run. And then they just fell off a cliff. So if you're asking me right now, I would say maybe letting go of Shane if that's what it comes down to. Hopefully they don't let go of nobody. But I understand if Pete wanted to move in a different direction. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I go back and forth on this one. I struggle a little bit, but I do think if I had to simplify it in the best way I could, is like, all right, who is not getting, who is closer to maximizing what they have, and I would, man, that's
Very
really
tough.
really tough. It really is tough
Splitting hairs.
because I think there's more talent on. Like I think this should be a top 7 offense, probably. I think scoring wise, it might not even be off that far. I don't really know where they are scoring, but it's just not there. I feel like I keep wanting more from both sides of the ball. Yeah, it's pretty tough. Where are they at in scoring? Ooh, 17th. That's pretty bad. Oh man, they're 24th in scoring defense. No, that's both bad. That's just not for us. It's bad stuff.
Maybe you talked about off wax. Maybe Mike flipping a coin, huh? What do you say?
Yeah, it's really a coin. You can make both arguments either way because the production just not there, and ultimately we're just in a results based business.
Fair point. This next one comes from Carl Coleman. With everything going on, deep run, NFC, Super Bowl, doesn't look like that's going to happen. Pete Carroll, historic coach, but philosopher formula isn't adding up in 2024. DK is a top 3 stat wide receiver and a system that is meh. And then the trenches been an issue for quite some time. Is this era over?
I disagree with Pete's philosophy and the formula not being right. It is there. The formula is, you know what it looks like? What the Steelers did today. That's exactly what. No, I'm saying it's exactly what it looks like. It is run the ball, shorten the game with by being able to establish long drives, and when you have to throw it, be explosive. That is exactly what Pete is trying to do, and you can do it. They just did it with Mason Rudolph. They did, and he looked great today. Yeah, he looked great today. And then their running backs look great today. And their run game just in general look great today. So the formula is fine. The formula and the philosophy I've come around on. You just gotta. I mean, I've always actually thought it worked because we've seen it work. So But yeah, I think that the issue is finding the guys for it, and they just have not been able to do that. But like I mentioned earlier, I think that you need a certain amount of blue chip cats to get this done. I mean, you're always going to need depth. You're always going to need some like late round diamonds in the rough type still. Like every team is going to have those. Like the veteran, like load up on like veterans who come in and just buy into your culture. The Ravens got a little bit of that too. You know, got guys like Clowney over there and Odell, Aguilar, a couple other veteran guys who are like gluing that thing together on top of some of their draft picks and some other stuff. But by and large, any blue chip dudes. And I just don't see a path to it, man, because you're not going to do it in free agency. And granted, there's not a lot of those there anyway. And the draft stuff is just so hard to count on, particularly when you're drafting late in the draft. And then even then, these last couple of years, they've been given high draft picks. Chris, how many top 50 draft picks are on the team right now? Let's go through this.
For the Seahawks, you got Jasmine.
Yeah.
You got who'd they take? Hall, Derek
Here,
Hall.
I can look this up. Let's look this up. Seahawks draft history, Pro Football Reference, all-time draft history. All right,
all-time?
top 50 picks that are on the squad right now. All right. We got Jordan Brooks and Darrell Taylor, both top 50 guys. Charles Cross, Boye, and Ken, all top 50. Spoon, Jackson, D Hall, and then Charbonnet was picked 52. But for all intents and purposes, let's lump him in there as well. D. Eskridge was 56. So he's about in the same realm. These are good picks. And then some of these picks are top 25 ish. Jackson, Spoon, Charles. Now, all those guys are good, but you're not going to pick there anymore. That's the thing. So you're not gonna have these opportunities. You use them, you got them, still not enough, and you're pairing them with your veterans. So yeah, man, I feel like it's very obvious what you have to do if you're not gonna have a schematic advantage. That's the other thing when I've been watching the old Seahawks. There was clearly a schematic advantage with their defense. They just were doing something that people didn't have the capabilities of figuring out. And then I don't think that's possible to do in today's game anyway. I feel like you can have a good scheme, but like it's so tough with injuries and stuff, particularly on defense. So if you're not going to have the schematic advantage where you're doing something no one else can figure out, you need to have the talent advantage or the advantage with consistency. And I feel like if the sample size is large enough that if your goal is to win a Super Bowl, you're probably not gonna get that done. If your goal is to just be competitive year to year, of course, all these guys will get that done. We're seeing it. Their week 18 game means something. There's not every team can say that. The Jets week 18 game probably meant something in forever. You know, teams like Cleveland and Jacksonville and Detroit went years with their week 18 game not meaning something. You can do that. The Bucks or whoever. Like we've seen teams like that. Chargers, they have these droughts where their games don't mean nothing late in December and January. Seahawks have that. If that is your goal, status quo is cool. If your goal is to be fighting for the 1 seed, not the 7, then yeah, this is a done deal. But we've known that for probably since the bye week. Probably we've known that for a little bit, I would say.
We got Jome253. He asked, what do the Seahawks fans have to be excited about for the 2024 season, whether they make the playoffs as the 7th seed or miss the playoffs by a game?
Yeah, I mean, right now, in the big picture, it really is not a ton to be excited about. Again, this was the case even last week too, just because we know like there's just such a difference between fighting for that 1 seed and fighting for that 7 or 6. You know, those teams just exist in a different space. You can just feel it. You know, like it's the difference between now you can make that jump. I feel like we've talked about this on the show too. The Eagles just made it. Like the Eagles were they were in 2021, they were like the 7 or something like that, the 6. And Jalen Hurts and them boys went to Tampa and lost, right? And then the very next year, they're like the best team in the league. You know, so you can do stuff like that. Now it helps that Jalen Hurts they added AJ Brown to like one of the best receivers in the league, blue chip talent, and then Jalen Hurts just turned into like an MVP candidate. Barring one of those two things happening, it's just hard to make that jump. You can do it, it's just hard. It's much easier to go from being awful to being where the Seahawks are. Like I think teams like the Texans is doing that now, and the Jags, Cleveland, like we've seen teams do. Even Detroit, they were picking Aiden Hutchinson with the second pick in the same draft where the Seahawks took D, and look where they are now, fighting for like the 2 seed. So you can do that, but you really need those blue chips, man, and it's hard to get excited about that part. If you just want the Seahawks to be competitive and give you something to do every Sunday, and by New Year's they're still in the hunt, you should be through the moon, or through the roof, over the moon. Those are the phrases. You should be both of those things if I'm saying those right. But if your goal is to like, yo, when we gonna get back to like that, we're gonna get that old thing back. Oh no. I wouldn't have the same excitement there. It wouldn't. It feels like it kind of feels like being with somebody for a long time. Like I'm talking like 20, 30 years, something like that. Like whether it's your chef or your significant other and they cook for you. And then you're just like, yeah, no, the pork chops they make it straight. Like, you know, but man, we go to this one restaurant up the block, man. I just wish the pork chops could be like that. It's the best pork chops I ever had. Brother, if she been making them pork chops like that for 20 years, they just not about to just magically turn into the joints from up the street, or it's a steak or whatever. It's just not. If you want that, go up the block and get that. It's not about to change after 20 years or whatever, or even 10. If the pork chops you like is good, they're just gonna remain good. If the ones up the block are the best you ever had, you're gonna have to go up the block to get those. And that's kind of where the Seahawks are. It's very hard to go from. I mean, not very. It's just hard to go from where they are, being scrappy, feisty team, to like, all right, we like that for real. We compete. Like you pretty much need either an MVP caliber quarterback, or you got to hit on some real diamonds in the rough in the late rounds, or get a bunch of blue chips because you had a bunch of top 10 picks on your like D line. So there's like 3 paths, and I don't see any of those 3 paths happening.
Our boy Kim Will Santana has one. How can Seahawks fans continue to get excited about this team in the future?
Get high, I guess. It's 2024 now. I don't want to sound all doom and gloom, but yeah, man, those are the paths you root for. All of a sudden, your quarterback starts playing like an MVP, doable. I mean, that's the path. You stink for long enough that you just get a bunch of dogs up front because you got a bunch of high picks, or you get a bunch of guys who get drafted on day 2 and 3 who turned into superstars. Not good players, superstars. Like George Kittle type, like, oh, that might be the best guy in the league type. I think he was like a 5th round pick. Stuff like that, you know? Unless you get that, just I think you got to just accept being competitive every New Year's Day. That's about it.
Not competitive New Year's Day. I lost his @name, but he does want to know. I'll find his @name in a second, but he wants to know, will Tyler Lockett be on the team next season?
Yeah, I think so. He's another one of those guys for totally different reasons, but it feels very similar to like Jamal, where it's like if it's up to Pete, yes. If it's up to Pete, it's like, oh yeah, no problem. That's our guy. Look how important he is. His voice, his consistency, is all that stuff. His playmaking, yeah. He's like does things the right way. Good example. Yeah. All that stuff. You can just hear it. I almost said all that in Pete's voice. If he leaves it up to groupthink, and it's people who are looking more at spreadsheets than some of the intangible stuff, you can see that maybe going the other way. But I would guess yes. I would guess yes on that. He seems like one of those guys where it's just like, if Pete's gonna like give and take on something, he's not gonna give on that one. I don't think so.
I'm right there with you. I'm still struggling to find his name, damn it. But it's okay. I got the question at least. So bad part on me. We'll go to the next one, and this comes from Mookie Alexander. Do you think it's feasible for the Seahawks to keep Geno Smith for 2024 season and in the draft take a rookie quarterback early?
So I want you guys to imagine this scenario. Remember, the Seahawks don't have a 2nd round pick, right? So they got all these talent issues. You're watching them lose at the line of scrimmage or lose in the secondary or lose whatever, right? You're looking and it's like, man, we just need like another guy at this position or another 2 guys. We need some guys here, right? Imagine that. You know that you watch the games and you're like, all right, cool. That's what we need. We need one of those guys. And then, but you're also like, we need, I like Geno. Cool. That's a scenario. Now imagine that. You need all these pieces. You need blue chip talent. And then on draft night, y'all draft Bo Nix or Michael Penix or something. That's not going to make you happy. Because you got to, when you draft people, when you're at the place where the Seahawks are, it gets kind of dicey when you draft dudes who can't help you right away. That's why, like, I don't know. I don't want to guess how that he was received, but I don't really feel like people were gung-ho about, like, drafting Jalen Hurts. I think he was, like, pick 50 after they just paid Carson Wentz. And the only reason that looks genius now is because he morphed into, like, MVP caliber type of guy. But they needed people who could help them. And he couldn't right away. Same thing with Jordan Love. They needed help. They needed receivers. And they drafted another quarterback. They drafted Aaron Rodgers' replacement. That's the good analogy. Look at how Green Bay, now Jordan Love's balling right now. But the point is, at that time, Green Bay fans were like, yo, we need A, B, and C. Heard Jordan Love's name on the first round and was like, hey, are we all watching the same games? We need receivers, not Aaron Rodgers' replacement. So I feel like that's kind of where the Seahawks are in that regard. Like, yes, Jordan Love's good now. But at that time, that looked crazy doing that because it looked like you were using a premium resource on a luxury pick. So I don't think the Seahawks should do, like, unless they just I think they should get rid of Geno if they're going to take a quarterback early, but don't keep him and then like draft like Bo Nix or Michael Penix or one of these other guys in the later part of the first round or something like that. I think that's a bad use of resources if your goal is to be a championship team. You got to wait to the 3rd round to draft that young developmental dude.
I was able to find it. It was from Zach Nixon. So shout out to Zach Nixon for that question regarding Tyler Lockett and if he's going to be on the Seahawks next season. We have another one. It comes from Katie Chill. I think you mentioned a couple weeks ago about guys running wrong routes and ending up a couple of yards from each other. Do you think that happened with Noah Fant and JSN on his touchdown? They were in the same spot.
No, I think they had double. I have to look at that touchdown now, but I think they had double posts on that. The play looks right actually. I think I've watched it a couple times. I'll watch it again live here as we're talking, but I'm pretty sure that they're both supposed to run posts and that Gino's supposed to make a choice based on what the safety does. And I think the safety, who I believe was Patrick Peterson, just makes the wrong choice right there. And yeah, because I think they both have posts and they both run them just from opposite sides of the field, and Gino has a choice. I'd have to go back and look. I asked Jackson about the touchdown, and I believe that's what he was saying. But even without his input on that, I think that was how that's supposed to go, and then Gino's supposed to read it. Great throw by Gino, by the way.
Yeah.
Great. That was probably one of my favorite throws of him from the year. He's got a few, but yeah, that was really good.
This one comes from your boy Adam. One of those that simply cannot happen under any circumstances. Is this the most unpredictable Seahawks team, both good and bad, you have ever covered?
Yeah, I think unpredictable is in this case another synonym for inconsistent. Inconsistency. It's how you get to 500, right? You lose as many games as you win, right? That's exactly how that works. Yeah, it's just it's so weird because Pete's whole thing is consistency with the messaging. So I don't know if it's weird. I feel like it's still bought in, but man, to see them fall flat like this, it is just in every game supposed to be the biggest game of the year, right? And play like it. It's one thing to lose, like that 2019 game. They lost to the Niners. That was for like the championship, NFC West championship, essentially. Sunday Night Football brought Marshawn back. Like there was fight in that. Like I felt the fight, even though they lost. It came down to just Jacob Hollister, just like right there, or John Ursua right there at the one. But so in that case, even losing it, you still felt like okay, the fight was there. That fight wasn't there today. And we've seen the fight not be there a little bit, and that's strange. That part is probably the most inconsistent part I've seen since maybe that 2017 team that lost like Rich, that lost Cliff, lost Cam. That team was also inconsistent as well. But I mean, Bobby had the bad hammy. KJ got concussed. Earl was trying to play for the Cowboys while he was still on the Seahawks. So like that team had some more things going on. This one, it just feels like, yeah, it's just mentally inconsistent. And yeah, I haven't seen that from a Seahawks team. That's the part that is really hard to explain, but I feel like you guys can all feel it when you watch it too, which is why the homie Adam asked that.
We got Holly here on this one. What 3 things should be on the top of the to-do list for the Seahawks entering into next season?
Yeah, D-line, O-line, take that coin we were talking about earlier, flip it, and change a coordinator. There you go. Add it in any order if you want. I don't really care the order, and I don't care which one change. I just feel like you got to change. You need to change. That's the thing. Someone asked us a question earlier, and they prefaced it with "change has got to come" or "change is inevitable." That's correct. You can't just keep doing this. I mean, you can, but you're gonna have to change some stuff along the way. Pete's changed a bunch of coordinators. That's one thing Pete's gonna do. He's gonna get the coordinator up out of here. He doesn't have much loyalty to coordinators in that regard. He'll get you up out of here. So, yeah, I could see that. That would be if Pete asked me or if he asked us and came on the show and was like, what do you guys think? That would be my suggestion. It's like, bro, you got to get right up front. Start with a D line. You need the boys. You need them guys who, when they was in Pop Warner, they didn't have a ride home. You need them type of kids. No, for real, because I'm researching some of these old players that they had, and they had guys that couldn't go back. Brandon Browner was not going to fail when the Seahawks got him. He was not going back to the CFL. He played like it. Cam, too. Marshawn was like that, too. Earl, not as much, but a little bit. But, yeah, they just had them guys who was just like, I'm not going back, and I'm playing like it. Need more of them dudes, particularly up front. But just the whole defense should be a bunch of guys like that. No. You need some guys with some sense. So like 80% guys like that, and then like a couple like
Bobbies.
Yeah, Bobby, perfect example. Like yes, a couple Bobbies, a couple KJs, and then like a bunch of dudes who can't go back. That's what they need on D. That would be my first thing. And honestly, once you do that, it doesn't really matter what you do elsewhere. If you can get that on defense, you'll be straight.
Last one comes from Chris Lee. What are we drinking tonight, boys?
What do you want to start? You want to answer that one? Oh boy, Chris is getting up. I don't know what he's about to grab.
Hell
here.
yeah, I'm drinking tonight, baby.
What
Come
are you
on,
pulling
man.
up? Oh my God, Chris is
You
pulling
see
out the
that?
apple
It's
cider.
that sparkling, boy. My stuff about to be going crazy. You feel me?
Oh,
Tap in midnight. Happy New Year to all y'all. Thanks for rocking with Seahawks, man. I might pop this joint live on. No, I'm playing, but yeah, I'm popping this tonight. Yes, sir. So for all my YouTubers watching, you can see that sparkling cider. Look at that beautiful cursive. I should get that tatted on me. Sparkling cider. Martellinis. Come on, baby. We going in. What you got, Mike?
I think it's Martelli's, right? Martinelli's?
Martinelli's.
Martinelli's.
Hey,
Oh,
see,
yes.
get up on my French. Oui, oui.
Oh boy, get up on my French. Oui, oui. What am I? I don't know. I'll probably some champagne or something. But if the store by my house is still open, I'll go grab something. Yeah, probably just some cheap champagne. I'm not gonna be balling out too much. I gotta wake up and try to book a flight to Arizona fast here, so I gotta do that. Oh, I probably got one beer in the fridge left too. I'm a big Lucille guy, big IPA cat. But yeah, some champagne to bring in the new year. Like Chris said, Happy New Year to all you guys rocking with us, man. 2023 was great. We appreciated all the love and support, even as we switch companies, tried to grow to YouTube, all that stuff. We thank you so much. 2024, gonna try to do it bigger and better.
Not trying, we will.
That's true. Thank you. So, before we end it, just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Be safe out there. Enjoy 2024. Thank you. Hope you're rocking with us the whole year. Else we got anything else, Chris, before we sign them out? Put the cider down. Chris don't drink.
If you guys want to sponsor us, we are available. Seahawks Man to Man. Tap in. I will drink this every episode. Pop it live, however you want it. I'll even give you a great read. You just tap in with me. My Twitter handle. You can email me at ctqkid3@gmail. I'll be sure to follow up. So if you're listening, if you're seeing this, tap in with your boys. Hell, Mike will drink some too. I know he like alcohol and beer.
I will. If it's sponsored, then yes.
Tap in.
Yes, I would.
But
if it's sponsored, yes.
Appreciate all the love and support, guys. We'll catch you in the new year. I guess we're catching the new year now, but you get my drift. We'll be back with standout plays. Woo, that'll be fun. I'm sure we'll find some stuff to talk about. Might not be positivity for standing out, but boy, it stood out. So, Mike, anything else you want to add?
No, that's it, man. Happy New Year, y'all. Peace.